Hello everyone, welcome to A Clear Perspective. I'm Serene. In Tuesday's Wall Street Journal, well-known financial tycoon George Soros publicly attacked the decision made by the world's largest asset management firm, BlackRock, to invest in China, and he continued his criticism against Xi Jinping. This is highly unusual, as this is the third article in a row Soros has published in a major media outlet denouncing Xi Jinping. Previously, Soros published his first article in the Wall Street Journal on August 13th, harshly attacking Xi Jinping. Then he wrote a second article to the Financial Times on August the 30th, criticizing Xi for not understanding the market economy. The Chinese Communist Party had already imposed total censorship on all of its domestic financial self-media, fearing that the public would learn about its unfavorable economic news. Soros, on the other hand, acted as the world's loudest financial mouthpiece, criticizing China's economy in an unusually high-profile way, and also attacked Xi Jinping's leadership. There is certainly a reason for this. There is an old belief in China that once something has reached the third time, it has reached a critical point, and its nature is about to change. Soros' repeated attack on Xi Jinping went beyond just an ordinary person expressing his dissatisfaction whose investment interests have been damaged by the perpetrator. As we have discussed on several occasions, the far-left forces in the U.S. have the same root as communism. The only difference is that in a Western democracy, the emphasis of communism is not on using violence to seize power, but instead they promote the so-called moderate and progressive communism. But whether it is progressive or radical, it is just a vest of communism with different outfits. So, according to this, Soros, a far-left bigwig, should have become an ally of the CCP. In fact, Soros did have close ties with the CCP and the former leaders Jiang Zemin and Hu Jintao. Why has Soros flipped out now on Xi Jinping when Xi is clearly the man carrying communism forward? The answer lies in these three articles written by Soros himself. Let's start with his latest article from Tuesday. The article comes right out and aims at BlackRock's decision to invest in China, saying that the firm misunderstood the China ruled by Xi. They thought they could make money, but pouring billions of dollars into China now is a tragic mistake. It would likely bring losses to BlackRock's clients. And rather than limiting his rant to the technical scope of an investment decision, Soros escalated the nature of the matter to the point that BlackRock will damage the national security interests of the United States and other democracies, because BlackRock's investments would help cement Xi's regime. Quote, "Today, the U.S. and China are engaged in a life-and-death conflict between two systems of governance, repressive and democratic." Soros concluded the article by exclaiming, "Congress should pass legislation empowering the Securities and Exchange Commission to limit the flow of funds to China. The effort ought to enjoy bipartisan support." This call to limit investment in China also appeared in Soros' second article, a critique published in the Financial Times on August the 30th. In this article, Soros cites a series of Xi's crackdowns on private companies. It condemned Xi for not understanding the market economy. It said that it's a deception that the Chinese financial authorities have gone out of their ways to appease and reassure foreign investors. The reason is that Xi sees all Chinese companies as instruments of a one-party state. He is putting in place an updated version of Mao Zedong's party. No investor has any experience of that China because there were no stock markets in Mao's time. hence the rude awakening that awaits them. In my opinion, Soros' first piece really carries the most weight, with a fiery title that reads, "Xi's Dictatorship Threatens the Chinese State." At the beginning of the article, Soros pointed directly at Xi Jinping, saying, "There is a conflict between his beliefs and his actions, and between his public declarations of wanting to make China a superpower and his behavior as a domestic ruler." Soros then said, "At the heart of this conflict is the reality that the two nations represent diametrically opposed systems of governance. The United States defends a democratic and open society in which the role of government is to protect the freedom of the individual." Soros then touches on what I think is the most important idea of the article, comparing the differences between Xi and Deng, and then concludes that Deng was successful because he realized that the West was much more developed and China had much to learn from. Deng wanted China to rise in the midst of a Western-dominated global system, not opposed to it. The other important part is that Soros repeatedly mentions that Xi Jinping is fully committed to seeking re-election, and the crackdown on the private sector is part of his efforts to remove resistance. So Xi is the most dangerous enemy of an open society, and makes the entire Chinese people his victims. From the content of these three articles, it is clear that Soros is blasting Xi for two reasons. First, Xi is building and promoting a totalitarian system externally, which is incompatible with a democratic and open system. Second, Xi is seeking re-election internally, destroying Deng Xiaoping's strategy and the safe access of foreign capital to the Chinese market. Both of these points seem to be objective facts, which Xi himself does not deny. But we all know that Soros is not an ordinary man. He is not only a financial tycoon, but also the most representative of those globalists on the far left in the United States, and is widely seen by the public as one of the core members of the deep state. The democratic open system that comes out of his mouth is actually different from what we normally understand by democratic openness. As a wealthy and a powerful far-left globalist, Soros' goal is to establish a global government to gradually weaken and eventually replace the functions of governments, which is actually similar to the communist pursuit of making all countries, nationalities, and religions extinct and reaching a so-called stateless world, or great unity, where all differences among rich, poor, and races are eliminated. Therefore, Soros' democratic open system is based on such a premise. As he said in his article, Deng Xiaoping wants China to rise in a Western-dominated global system. And Western-dominated here obviously refers to a global system dominated by the far left. Soros is very approving of Deng Xiaoping, which is a problematic judgment, but let's not discuss that today. Our focus is that the most fundamental reason why Soros criticized Xi, Mao's follower, is that these far-left forces have always regarded that the Deng Xiaoping line of the CCP as their own tool to establish a global government, which is why they have strongly supported the Chinese Communist Party in the past. But now they have discovered that the CCP under Xi is apparently no longer satisfied with this status, and even plans to take over and use the leftists in the West as a tool. The leftists realized that what Xi Jinping called globalization turned out to be a globalization led by the Maoist communists, and they had always been regarded by the CCP as useful idiots. This is what struck the leftists like Soros, as he suddenly realized that they had been feeding the tiger for years. This is why Soros also had his second objective to block Xi Jinping's next term. We see a core message that is consistent in all three articles, which is the repeated emphasis that Xi is reverting to the Maoist belief that the market economy is a threat to the communist regime rather than a help. That is why Xi has been taking on a range of private companies. Under such circumstances, any investment in China is not only facing the risk of personal loss, but also tantamount to aiding totalitarian dictatorship and jeopardizing democracy and freedom. This statement is not coming from Soros himself, but actually represents a large portion of the far-left forces in the United States. In other words, what the Biden administration is not convenient to say in public is said by Soros. To call on the major investors to stop feeding the CCP and create more economic pressure. So from this point of view, Soros shows that he is selectively anti-communist. He is against Xi Jinping or Mao Zedong, but does not seem to be against Deng Xiaoping. Soros thought Deng Xiaoping was different from Mao and Xi, but this was a misjudgment. Mao, Deng, and Xi have actually been implementing the same century-long grand strategy for the CCP to take over the whole world. The openness Deng showed was just a strategic deception. Of course, that's another topic that we can save for another day. Lastly, we would like to remind our viewers again that our platform may be restricted on social media. We would like to recommend the YouMaker platform to everyone. Our videos are available on YouMaker. Please subscribe, and we hope to see you there. Thank you for watching. That's all for today. We'll see you next time.